And our first item of the agenda is to receive comments from the public.
I didn't
Keith?
see a sign up list, but if y'all would find it. I came last month and introduced myself, and I'm back again this month, and I'm still expressing an interest for the vacancy. I am registered to run in the next election. I know that with you guys, there's a lot of experience. So I will find it challenging, I'm sure, to run in an election against all the experience that you guys have and all your experience that you bring to the board. But again, I'm open to questions. I have a background for this. I'm very civically minded and have worked very hard to bring attention so the community pays more attention to the important work that this board does and get more community involvement. And I've worked very hard for that, maybe a little too hard, because now all of a sudden we have 9 people set up to run, which I don't know if that's ever happened. And I apologize for bringing that much attention. But again, I do appreciate any consideration for the vacancy, because I think you guys will be tough to beat in an election from your experience. So thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Any other comments, ladies? No, all right. Moving on, item number 3 is to consider and act on the request for adjustments to or a relief from the specific charges imposed by the district. Mike, nothing? All right. Moving on, items number 4 through 8 is the consent agenda. So if everyone has had a chance to review that, and if anyone wants to make a motion on the consent agenda, we can certainly entertain that. Or if we need to remove any items from the consent agenda, we can certainly entertain that as well.
We'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the consent agenda as it is.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, item number 9 on the agenda is what Mr. Lincoln was just referring to. We do have a vacancy on the board, and the item is to consider appointment of the new director to fill the vacancy on the board, including the following, and then we have a list of elements that go along with that. And then we can act on this now, but I believe we're going to go to closed session to discuss the vacancy. And so what do we do, Brian? Come back to this? Okay, so we're going to table item number 9 for now until we go into closed session, and we'll come back to that. Item number 10 is to receive the monthly SJRA and the Woodlands Division report, including updates on operations, projects, and public outreach. Good.
How are you?
Starting on page 15, we have our operations report for the month. Relatively month as far as operations goes. If you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them. But if not, on page.
Jason, can I add one note on that?
Sure.
So I just want to make you all aware, on page 23, there's the Harper's Landing water line loop installation project. Now, I know that is in your mud, right there where Harper's Landing comes in and Trade Center Parkway. It would be the northwest corner. Our contractor is planning to mobilize March 4th. So you are going to see some activity in that area. If you're questioned on it, just want to make you aware. And that is to add a redundant water line, short little stretch from the water plant over intersect into the line right there at the intersection.
Is that going to impede traffic at all, do you
It
think?
should not impede traffic, but you will see activity in there.
No effect to the residents at all,
Not that I'm aware of.
or the businesses along Trade Center?
There should.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
All right.
On page 28, you'll see there's a presentation, FY25 budget preparation. Basically, it's just a slideshow that was given to the audit committee and the trustees showing the guidelines that we're using to build our budget for FY25. Is there any information y'all like to go over in detail, or we can always come back to it?
I would imagine the blend is remaining the 50-50, at least for now. And I know there's a lot going on behind the scenes as well. So, but for 50-50 for now.
Yes.
And nothing significant changed from the last time we've seen the draft of this or the. Any other questions?
Mm-mm.
One last item I have for you before Dan takes over is on page 42. there is a, I'm sorry, starting on page 42, there's a lengthy memo for FY 23 excess funds. Excess funds, so left over from last budget year. Approximately, we had approximately $5.1 million left over from the budget last year. The memo goes over, there has been approximately 5 projects that have been identified for the funds to flow out to retain the fund. Or there's also on page the on page 45, there's a chart that shows that the funds elect to refund, shows your percentage and your part of that refund.
What page? Oh, never mind. Thank you.
And it's $74,000.
Okay.
The rest of the memo pretty well goes into details of what each project is, the reason behind it. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer. Myself, Dan, Billy, maybe also to discuss financials. Maybe.
I have a couple questions, if you don't mind. So the number 2 with the asbestos cement water line condition assessment, is that part of the process of hiring the external engineer or auditor to start looking at the valuation of the cement, or is this something different?
I'm not mistaken, this goes towards funding the project. Starting, great. Yeah, so this will go towards funding the actual, what we're already starting.
The actual work.
Yes,
Okay. And then again, the same thing with 3, I kind of assumed that the town center water line was something that was going to get worked on.
So the actual construction of town center water line is still to be determined.
Okay.
Partially due to the results of the AC water line condition assessment.
Got it.
We are looking to prioritize the testing on that line though, to see if we can get results sooner and make a determination on when that timing would come. So what this item 3 is in the excess funds memo is related to the easements that are required to replace that water line. So in some areas we're need to do an offset and a different alignment where we're not planning on going in and pipe Thursday. That will push us outside our existing easement. So we've done survey to develop those easement parcels. There's also temporary construction easements too, to where pushing us outside our easement for boring machines and equipment to be able to install the line. So we're requesting that $1.5 million because we know at some point in time, those easements are going to be required. So we would like to proceed in that direction and be able to, at the very minimum, start procuring the permanent construction easements, but also looking at the temporary too. So this includes both permanent and temporary. And being proactive and going forward with that, it helps reduce the risk of other utilities over time coming in there, other events that may impact the project. So we are requesting that 1.5 in excess fund for water line.
Did this memo already go to the trustees? What was the thought from the trustees?
It was just discussion. There wasn't any discussion. It was presentation. There wasn't really any discussion among the trustees about a decision.
Okay.
And really, that's part of today's presentation to y'all is, for y'all to discuss on how you would like your trustee to vote in March, because the excess funds is a trustee voted on item, not.
Absolutely.
So far, all the trustees have given the MUDs have given the trustees direction on how to vote so far.
Okay. And then okay, that's all I have.
So let me ask just 2 questions basically so the 5.1 million, if all the MUDs vote to receive that money back, do all these projects go away or do they just get funded from another source? The projects that you have listed on page 42 and 43.
No, they don't go away. They're just.
Have to be refunded elsewhere. are funded elsewhere.
Going to the budget next year.
Your wholesale rate. So basically your increase on your wholesale rates next year would be higher to come up with those funds.
Okay.
They're gonna get handled, they're gonna get done regardless. We're either funding it with the leftover money or we're gonna pay more next year.
Money.
Got it. So, okay, all right.
Eric, you may or may not be able to say, but what's been the consensus of the other MUDs in terms of go ahead and just funding the projects or getting them, or getting a refund?
So all keep the money in the SDRF for these projects.
Right, to let them use it for,
Not.
gotcha. Any objections to that?
I mean, I would say financially, if, you know, if I was doing this for a client, I'd say it's already allocated. It's already in the checking account. Why move it back to the savings account? It's already there. That's good. Let's get it done.
Any objection? No. Now, I might point out from a more selfish standpoint, ours is only 3% of the total project. So if we requested ours back, to pay back to us, it's not going to impede if everybody else is going along with it, it's not going to impede the project at all. But to be a good team player.
Well, on the flip side, the district made that exact point and their percentage was 15, 16, whatever it was. And they did the math and realized this isn't a whole lot of money coming back anyway
Right.
for us individually.
Yeah.
So it didn't make, yeah.
And I said that mostly in jest. I wasn't trying to maneuver the vote in any way.
You didn't ask to be divided by 3.
No.
Correct.
No.
All right. So I don't think we have to take a motion. You're just looking for direction, right? So the trustee can go at the trustee meeting. All right.
Good.
Okay, very good. Anything else on that?
I don't have anything else. There has a few items.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple handouts. First one, you got one right there. So this is just for y'all's reference. What it is the detailed scope of work with our consultant for the AC waterline condition assessment. We spent months talking about this. You saw costs from, you know, 3 to 3.5 million, 2 to 4 years. You know, at that point in time, we were just kind of presenting the best information that we had. Now that we've selected our consultant, HDR Engineering, that is a firm with national experience in doing AC pipe assessments. They've authored a number of journal articles, some of them that y'all have been presented with and been mentioned in the past. So we are confident in their skill sets and expertise for this type of program. So what we're looking at here is about $1 million. And this is the fee for the engineering. It also includes the non-destructive testing, and it includes the actual laboratory testing for any destructive samples we take of the physical pipe. It's a little bit over a year until we hope to have some results to be able to present on that. So that's good information, you know, and I'm going from 3 million down to approximately 1, going from 3 years down to a little over a year, now that we've actually coordinated with essentially the expert on it. So we're looking forward to that. This is, again, no action, just for your reference, and it is planned to be on SGRA's March Board of Directors meeting for consideration. That would put us approximately early April start time, notice to proceed for the committee. I do want to point out in the excess funds memo that it was around $1.6 million that we were asking for versus this $1 million cost. That additional $550,000 is for SDRA to contract with a contractor to do the actual excavation when we get into any sort of destructive testing. There's a significant cost there to do excavation and actually taking samples of it. So that's what the additional approximately $550,000 is.
All right. So it's about 500,000 to dig and pull it out, and it's $1 million to assess it. Got it. All right.
So any questions on that? Feel free to get back with us.
I just have one quick question, Dan. Oh, you done? I didn't want to.
No, go ahead.
So you're talking about the 3 million down to 1 million. I know the 3 million was just an estimate, but does the decrease in number change the scope of the project in any way? And you may have already said that, I'm sorry, but so did we estimate, we're going to do 50 tests and now we're only doing 20? Is that?
So we have worked with the consultant to get their professional opinion on how many samples are needed. That was the big question. We didn't know. Do you need, for 48 miles, do you need 50 samples, 100 samples? How much non-destructive testing do you need to do? So we worked with them to get it down to what we feel is an optimized number of tests We still need to go through and figure out what technologies we want to use to get the best value out of. That's a part of their scope. But we've optimized the number of tests to be able to get the picture of what we feel would be representative of the full 48 miles. So this isn't just focusing on, a few sections of lines. This should be represented for all the AC line in the Woodlands, and it optimized, we'll say, number of sampling sites.
And as the testing goes on, is it something that would happen where they say, okay, we took 50 tests, all 50 tests are now showing us that, yes, some changes are gonna have to be made. Do we have to improve the number of the tests to get a more accurate reading? Or will we just determine what to do based on how many of our tests are in this plan?
I think if they get some outliers on the testing that may warrant kind of further, more detailed testing in certain areas, but until we really get into it, I don't know.
Is there anything in this contingent? Like, is there, if it says, okay, if we reach X and that means we need to do X more, add another 500,000 or another million or anything like that, or?
Not in here. Like, if
It'd be
we
a whole
get to
new-
that point, that'd be like a work order number 2.
Gotcha.
That's a separate assignment.
Okay, I understand.
So at this point, how many assessments are you planning to do? How many spots?
So I think at this point it is not fully vetted, because part of it is still figuring out the technology and where you would do non-destructive. And where you really need to work with a consultant at the beginning of this work order to look at the existing data we have, look at where the AC lines are located, try to, I guess, prioritize where you even do the testing. So at this point, I can't put a points on the map, or there's going to be X number of points at the point in time. But,
Okay.
I think this is a big program that, over the next year, you're going to hear updates from us. So.
Okay. That sounds good. It's a good starting point.
And as real quick, a second handout. This is something we just finished up with our consultant this weekend. What this is we've got continued discussion and questions regarding the wastewater strategic plan and our proposal of looking to build a new membrane wastewater facility. We've been at this, as some of you know, for 3 years now, talking about it, originally back in late 2020 on consolidation or regionalization. We turned it into the strategic plan. We spent 1.5 years working with the MUDs and stakeholders and doing presentations on the phase 1. We've spent about another close to 1 year on phase 2, looking at the master plan side of it. So there's been so much information, so many presentations. We've had changes in MUD directors over time to where what we felt would be good is essentially an executive summary of the past 3 years. So what's in here is kind of the culmination of 3 years worth of work, explaining all the different reports, all the different memos, what the results were, recommendations that came out of those. It also even goes back into some previous reports that date back to 2010, even 2010, 2015, that tie into the condition assessment of wastewater facility 1, where the one memo that we had that our consultant Teresa Nichols did is not the only report that we've had on file of consultants coming in and assessing the condition of the wastewater plant. So there's a number of references in here and the highlights of those reports. We've also made those full reports available on the Google Drive, and you can work with Woodlands Water to access those. So if you read anything on the wastewater strategic plan, rather than reading hundreds of pages, I suggest reading these like 20 pages and go with it. I wanted to provide that to y'all. Feel free to ask any questions as you go.
Thank you.
I think that's all we got.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to item number 12, receive the attorney's report.
Election season fully underway. The deadline for applications did end at 5 p.m. on Friday. We do have 9 contested elections now. We had 7 as of the trustee meeting, but 2 more have now been contested. We had a flurry of additional candidate applications filed right before the deadline. I think I reported at the trustee meeting, we had 40 applications. We received 11 more between Thursday and Friday. So we have 51 candidates for 26 positions.
Is that more than 2 years ago or about?
I believe so. I mean, I think we may have had all 9 contested last time, which was the first time we had my recollection, but I don't think there were as many candidates, whatever that's worth. The county is handling the election as we did last time. We are working to get the notice out. It may have already gone out for the candidate drawing for the ballot positions. Shelley's working on getting that out today. So that will be on Monday, the 23rd here at Woodlands Water. 26. 26, I'm sorry. 26. And I think that is it for now.
I got a quick question regarding the filings. So the last date to withdraw someone's name is the 23rd. What would happen if somebody after the 23rd decides they really don't want to run or they're really not interested? Does the name just stay on the ballot and they don't just campaign or? Okay. All right. Thank you, Brian. Item number 13, consider adoption of a resolution concerning to develop the district's status for 2024 tax year.
Is it? Should be prepared. I think you got their right. The resolution prepared for y'all. That. One other item on the attorney's report I failed to mention, we're probably next month we'll have on the agenda an updated reimbursement agreement for the defined area, just since we have had the election and that has been completed. When we did the other one, it was in contemplation of, et cetera. So we'll probably button that up with a revised one that takes into account the election's been held, it was successful, et cetera. So looking to try to have that on next month's agenda.
Okay. I had a question about. So the defined developed district, are we going to talk about that again? You said next?
We will next month. I mean, you're going to be developing. I mean, we need to get the resolution prepared.
Okay.
Pick it up. But since you annex the property in, you're not going to meet that 95% threshold. Some districts have been on the edge. I think LJA indicated that no districts are going to have a change in status this year. So we'll go through the process.
Including us at this point, right?
We have to, as a reminder, we have to make this determination each year because it attaches to each year's tax levy. So this will impact your tax levy in September, October of this coming year as far as your rollback rate and the consequences of exceeding your rollback rate, whether you're subject to an automatic election or just the possibility of a petition for a rollback election. But you are going to be developing. I mean, that's the bottom line. You were last year as well, but we'll have it for formal action next month.
All right. Item number 14, consider an act on the tie-in to district ditch from the RV park in Glen Eagle neighborhood.
No update right now. The developer is working through coordination with TxDOT at the moment.
Moving on, item number 15, consider an act on the district's annual consumer report or customer report.
Yeah, so I believe John has provided a draft.
We got that.
And what we would like to do is, in order to make the deadline for the next month's bills, we would need to get it done by the end of this week. Ideally I think we would have to put it in on Monday, so ideally by the end of this week. If you've got any additional comments or adjustments beyond what's there. They tried to keep, from a formatting standpoint, it's very similar to some of the other MUDs. There is some of the same language that relates to all of the MUDs for consistency, and then there's some individual things too. If there's something else that you'd like to add, we'd be happy to.
Yeah, and Sean and I were gonna get together to look at this, but we didn't. So John, thank you. Where is John?
He's back up.
I think
He would be doing the talking right now.
Yeah, I'd say thank you for doing this.
I thanked him about 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a bunch of sick kids at home, so
Well, I mean, it looks good, just glance it over, but we don't have to make a decision at this point, right? We could just email you and say, yeah, it looks good. Okay.
Yeah, and even more specifically, if you do have changes, let us know as soon as you can and we'll get those incorporated.
Okay, I mean, it looks good to me so far, so thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Item number 16 is the general manager's report.
All right, covered most of it. Just wanted to point out the Gulf Coast Water Conservation Symposium is tomorrow. Myself, a handful of directors are going to be going. I think it was put on by another director from years ago and continued throughout the years. Paul Nelson as the MC and one of the originators of the group. So we're looking forward to that. And then I just wanted to give you an update on One Water. As you recall, there was a One Water task force that was put together years ago after Harvey for a few years on some drainage related things, and then it kind of petered out over time. Last year, the township voted to at least support the recreation whenever that day came. Behind the scenes, we've been working to develop some goals that the organization or that the group would maybe focus on, thinking that with specific goals, it would have a better shot of moving the needle, I guess, this next round. So that's occurred. We've had an initial meeting with township leadership just to talk about what that might look like, what the goals might be, how it might get organized, who would be, things like that. So it's moving along.
Good. So up to this point, the dialogue has been between you guys and the township.
Yes,
Has any other entities been involved
not at the
at this
moment.
point? And I think part of the issue what happened with the last one, I mean, everybody was gung ho at first and there were so many entities involved and nobody knew where to go. Nobody had direction and nowhere. That's why it kind of petered out because I think they just didn't get anywhere. The township didn't want to take the lead. Nobody else took the lead. And so it faded. So thank you for working with them because I think it's very important. And I think the initial objective was very important. I think it just didn't get any legs.
Yeah, and I think both WWA and, the MUDs and the township recognize that most likely in order for this to be successful, there's going to need to be an individual, maybe even a part-time hired individual that would really put some effort into it because I think the township, they may even have some bylaw things that they can't even hire an individual. They might be able to participate financially, and same with the MUDs. The MUDs might look at finding someone to be more of a lead on this because neither of the organizations really have the bandwidth to be able to put into it what it needs. So more to come on that.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you, Eric, for doing that.
And then I guess we'll in your packet on the comms and communications report, John had quite a bit of things he went over. On page 64 is where the communications report begins. We've continued to see a very good response on open rate engagements from all of our endeavors through the different outlets that we post things on, both in paper and digital. So that's continued to be very well. We're actually exceeding industry standards in open and engagement rates. So that's very encouraging. I still get a lot of responses, just whether it's at the ELC or George's Coffee or different community events that I'm at, where people will come to me. It would even happen at the Economic Outlook Conference on Friday. People were coming to me saying how good of a job, better of a job that WWA is doing about communicating to the public. So I really take that very seriously. So I like hearing those things. We're continuing to work on those things. We've had another meeting with Holloway and SGRA to go over basically Holloway has done an assessment of how both organizations communicate, what we've been communicating. From that, they developed a strategic plan to essentially be the framework for how we would go forward with the campaign, the infrastructure campaign, and educating the public and interfacing with the public. So that's in motion as well.
Good deal. It all looks great. And I think you guys have done a terrific job with communication. And I think it's evident just by if you look at this chart on page 65, shows the website visitation, it went from in the 18th to 22 from 254,000 to 377,000 hits in the last year. That's amazing.
Yeah, something else we're tracking too. We want to get as many people in the community to sign up for Water Smart. I don't know how many leaks and water and water bills that we've saved or the community has saved by just getting the alerts when a toilet is stuck or whatever the case may be, to alert them when something abnormal is happening. And right now we have 39% of the customers signed up, which that's about, I think we're at right around 29 or 30, 31 or so a year ago. So that's continuing to increase. We now have made some minor tweaks in the payment interface where you can go on to WaterSmart and pay on WaterSmart, and you don't have to go to the different portal now. So that's an improvement, and that will continue as we phase out the old billing software and jump into that. So a lot of things are moving.
Good deal. I read, I think it was just this morning, it might have been yesterday on Facebook or one of the neighborhood things that somebody wrote in that the water board had told them that they had a leak and they were requesting somebody to offer a plumber's recommendation to go out and how to check for the leak, but that they were informed by us, by Woodlands Water, that they had a leak, and they sounded grateful for that and were looking for further direction for a plumber. So something's working somewhere that, you know, you guys are interacting with the public, which is great. So thank you. Thank you, John.
That
Great
brings up
job.
a point that we encountered with one of the districts yesterday, and this is just if you're out in the community and hear about this. We had an individual that had a situation inside their house with a leak or an overflow, and instead of calling the water company, called a plumber, spent a lot of money with a plumber, and problem that becomes a little problematic for us because had they called us first, we probably could have saved them almost all the money. And we would dig into the problem. And so I would just encourage folks to make sure that if there is an issue, call us first. We'll investigate. It's either going to be on our side or their side. And we can probably do that pretty quickly at no cost and even do a free inspection on the sanitary side. So I'd encourage folks to look at that.
Well, and maybe that's part of some of the communication that could go out too,
100%.
you know, good deal. All right. All right, moving on to item number 17, authorize a review of the water conservation plan and drought contingency plan. And that was on the Google Drive. It's not in the packet, but I do have a couple of questions about that, but I'll wait till you finish your presentation.
Absolutely. So you have a drought contingency plan and a water conservation plan, both of which were created previously. They are required to be looked at every 5 years and updated. So we're at the 5-year mark. And so I would need concurrence today, at least for y'all to have us move forward in doing that. Coincidentally, we already have started that process. We've reached out to our consultant that helps us with the drought contingency plan, and they'll be working with us to make any adjustments to the drought contingency plan and then also the water conservation plan. Those will be required to be posted or submitted by May, beginning of May. So we will likely bring any adjustments for you to approve on either one of those documents, probably in the April timeframe, and then for approval. And then on the drought contingency side of things, because we're tied so closely with SGRA, we'll be working with them because they've got to do the same thing on the drought contingency plan as well, and they have to align, ours and theirs have to align as we go forward. So, okay.
So we're taking this up as an individual district, but we don't have a separate plan apart from all the other districts, right? Is it kind of a blanket plan for all of Woodlands Water and? And there's nothing unusual or unique in any district, and particularly ours is my question, where we would have to look outside of the general plan, right? There's nothing unusual or that would stand out from one district to another where the plan would have to be modified or tweaked or, and then.
Not against, different districts, no.
But then we adopt the plan individually, is that correct? We have to have our own.
You each adopt policy, just like we do
Gotcha.
our other policies.
Gotcha.
Other
Okay.
districts adopt it. So it's a consolidated policy on behalf of them.
Called RNS 35. So that's, that'll be for all of the mud, all of the muds will adopt it, but it's the same, adopting the same.
Okay, that's, I thought so, but I wanted to make sure. And the last plan I noticed was from 2019, so like you said, it's time to update. And I would think the conservation effort or part of that would be a lot to do with the new meters that have been implemented, and that probably is one thing, one change that you would make to the plan or talk about in the plan.
Yeah, you have to, it was, as a consultant, they used to put these together. It was kind of, I wouldn't say comical, but it was on the water conservation plan. You have to identify areas where you intend to look at water conservation. And in some cases that may be difficult to quantify, at least when maybe a district doesn't have deep seated plans to do some of that. But here you're doing a lot. And then the AMI meters, all of the public outreach that we do is a part of water conservation, the AMI. So we've already gone through with the consultant, all of the newer things that we've been doing since 2019. And they're already picking up on that and recognizing those things to be updated in the WCP. So those will be put in for sure.
Good. Sounds
You're
good.
doing a lot more than most.
Yeah.
Setting the bar, yeah, absolutely. So,
You mean Woodlands Water? Yeah.
absolutely. across the
Good.
board.
Well, you guys do a terrific job and we appreciate it. Anything else, Eric, on the? Okay. Item number 18, receive the Woodlands trustee report. Pages 2 through 62 to 63. And I'm sorry I didn't make that meeting, but I know you were there, Eric, and if you can give us an update on that.
Sure will. Arthur Friedhoff gave an update on on Region H meeting as he is the representative. Noted that I was appointed or noted as the WWI alternate for his alternate. Let's see. There was a one actionable item that was made on the trustees' behalf. Part was to the trustees voted to endorse, this is a longer story, but San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group is an organization that looks at flooding in across different regions. Years ago, the trustees fought hard to create a seat for this region, the upper watershed shed seat. At that point, Dr. Neil Gaynor was appointed to that seat and has recently decided to step down from that seat. Basically, the organization is kind of moving from identification of projects to now looking to need to try to find funding and move forward with some of these things. And he felt like he wasn't the best suited for that. So there was a recommendation from the public to the trustees of an individual, Imelda Diaz. She's a former Harris County Flood Control employee and has basically devoted her whole career to flood control and flooding in that area. And so the trustees voted to endorse her as at least that recommended candidate. Now, the flood planning group will look at all candidates over the next couple of months and then make a determination in the next month or so, from my understanding. So that was an action item. Mentioned that you can read it here, but we started the roof contract to work on the roof here. And then we're going to be going through, as part of our software migration from the old software to the new software, there's a lot of what's called data migration from the old formatting to the new software format. And we're needing to hire a consultant in order to do that and meet the timeframes for the go live. So that was another item that I reported on. I think that was it.
All right, thank you. One thing I wanted to, and I put this on my notes to ask about is, you mentioned it a minute ago about the floodplain and the flooding and so forth. Can we get an item on the agenda to just kind of get an update on whatever is taking place with the Conroe Dam as it would relate to Harper's Landing in the case of the release of water or an excessive water? You know, what happened during Harvey is part of the reason Harper's Landing flooded was because it opened the dam to an excessive amount. And I know after that, there was some conversation and some talk and people got together. They kind of came up with a plan that they're not going to release more than X gallons or whatever however feet per day or whatever, so that we don't have the flooding issue. And I called you and I'm sorry you were on vacation, but you're on a plane, but thank you for that. But I was concerned about now with all this heavy rain and I heard them releasing the dam. Releasing water from Conroe River Plantation flooded. And so I was concerned about what might happen in Harper's Landing. So it might be beneficial to the board if we get an update on, whatever plans in place, whatever the idea is, whatever the thought is in terms of how it would affect Harper's Landing and the whole Mud 39 in particular, but.
And I think we could probably have someone from SGA address that next month. I know from my perspective, I lived in Harper's when Harvey hit. And I know from experience, and when you asked that question, when the floods happened a couple of weeks ago, I immediately looked at the release rate. And so I was good on SGA's site, kind of seeing what the history was, 11,000, 14,000, then it went to 19,000. That peaked just over 19,000. And just to give perspective, the amount that was being released at Harvey when the issues happened were 70,000. So we were way off of that at that point. But to your point, the community was kind of on edge because they knew that there was a lot of water falling and water was, increasingly being released from the dam.
Right.
But we were way far away. Now, there's a lot of other factors downstream, upstream that affect just the release rate of the dam. But just to give you perspective, that was where we were at. But I think we ought to be able to. There's some certain protocols I think that were put in place after Harvey that. So y'all may be able to answer them now.
Yeah, but we can take that back to the Lake Conroe Division and follow up with it.
Okay, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And I know that's item number 21. While I had you there, I wanted to discuss that. So then we're off to item number 19 to recess to closed session to consult with the district's attorney pursuant to section 551071 Texas Government Code and or discuss personnel matters pursuant to section 551074 of the Texas Code. Correct.
Recess to close session. Harris, you play that one.